So if you found you've been maintaining your carbon filters and changing them appropriately, but still are experiencing a flow issue, it may be time to change the RO membrane. Now, how are you going to know that? In situations where you notice a change in flow, but still purifying properly, your resin may be compensating for what the membrane is not performing to, and it is time to change this filter before you overspend in resin changes. It's time to change the RO membrane when you notice that it is only taking out 80% of solvents out of the water, the TDS that we were talking about. If you get to the point where it's at 80%, this membrane is burnt. It is time to replace, which is no sweat. If you change your membrane and your carbon filter and you are still experiencing flow issues, it's important to open your resin cartridge to ensure that you have a proper seal from your O-ring facing upwards to the top of the housing. Any blockage there will cause a noticeable change in flow. There are other factors at play when it comes to flow, such as the fitting at the bottom of your system. Your waste fitting is a flow restrictor, and a flow restrictor is capable of failing, just like any piece. So it's important to disconnect the waste hose and see how much flow is coming out from that fitting. If you notice you are getting a higher rate of flow out of your waste fitting than you are out of your system, chances are you are losing flow to your system because of a bad restrictor, which is no sweat. Just swap that fitting out and your membrane will go back to performing with appropriate back pressure and the rest of the pressure out of the system. Just to summarize for everything flow related, flow is highly dependent on your source pressure and temperature. So obviously other factors at play for your source is water being used in the building that you're currently cleaning at, whether it's a house, is it well water, did somebody flush, somebody using the laundry, you're going to notice a drop in flow. How often were you changing your carbon filters? Is the carbon filter 2 months old? Have you done a lot of TDS, high TDS jobs and haven't changed your carbon filter? First step, change that carbon filter. See if your flow improves. Has the system sat out in frozen temperatures? It's time to change all your filters because you risk damage to each element of filtration. Temperature is huge. The colder the temperature, the slower the flow. Again, just like wood, the membrane element will constrict during colder temperatures and be more open during warmer temperatures. So obviously during the summer months, you're going to see a lot more flow out of your system. Another thing to consider is the state of your flow restrictor. Is it properly performing? Is it properly restricting flow, creating back pressure, allowing this membrane to put out more pure water? We'll take a look at the restrictor. If you notice that your waste restrictor is putting out water at a higher volume than that exits this hose or exits your system, it might be time to change the flow restrictor on the bottom cap of your system. Another thing to pay attention to is the fitment of your DI housing. The DI housing holds your resin, and it's in the white cartridge, the blue top, and a black O-ring. Ensure that that O-ring is making a proper seal on the housing. You'll notice on the O-ring itself, you'll see an impression. You want to make sure that impression is on the center. You don't want to open your housing and notice that your gasket's messed up, because then you're restricting flow. These are all things you want to consider when trying to diagnose an issue with flow in your system.